there. So a couple weeks ago I shared a video on how to maintain a sourdough starter. I tried to take all the guesswork out of it. You didn't have to weigh ingredients, just simply use it how our grandmothers would have used it 100+ years ago. So if you want to check out that video, I'll put that in the description below. But for today, one question that I had was, okay, so what does this look like from start to finish? So I'm going to walk you through making my favorite sourdough sandwich bread. This is not your standard artisan loaf that you would see online that has the beautiful scoring on the top that just has the flour, water, salt. This has a few extra ingredients in it, like some butter and some honey, that makes a perfect bread for sandwiches. We make it probably every week and a half, and use the 2 loaves that it makes for our family. I mean, from eating sandwiches to French toast to just toast in the morning, whatever we need it for, this is what we use. We have not bought a sandwich bread from the store in well over a year now because of this one recipe. So I'm going to share it with you. I'll put it in the description, but I'm also going to walk you through from start to finish. This has not been fed. I'm going to feed it right now. It is 3:24. I'm feeding my starter, and about 9-10 o'clock tonight I will use the starter to make our sandwich bread. And the reason we're going to feed it is because we're just trying to activate all of the yeast that is in there so that we can get a good rise on the sandwich bread. I'm going to start by feeding my sourdough starter. This is what a sourdough starter looks like when it needs to be fed. So I'm going to get my sourdough discard out of the fridge, and I will discard a bit of my starter into the discard container. I left approximately 1 cup of sourdough starter in the jar, and now I'm adding 1 cup of flour and 1 cup of filtered water. Once I've added those 3 ingredients together, I'm going to mix everything together, making sure to scrape down the jar. Alright, so the starter has been fed. I'm going to put a paper towel back on top with a ring, and this is going to sit on my counter for the next 6 to 7 hours. Before bed, I will start the bread for the next morning. This is just the sourdough discard. You saw me discard a little bit into this jar. This will go back into my fridge to be used in discard recipes like banana bread, or pizza crust is another favorite that we've been doing with this. I recently made some Cinnamon Toast Crunch cereal with the discard. There's so many things that you can do with discard. It's great. So it is about 9:15 at night now, so it's been just over 6 hours, or around 6 hours, and this is super bubbly and it's ready to bake with. I'm going to start by adding 1 cup of bubbly active starter to my stand mixer. Then I will be adding 2.5 cups of filtered water. This recipe calls for 1 stick or a 1/2 cup of butter melted. I'm adding that to the stand mixer now. I then add 1 tablespoon of salt and 2 tablespoons of honey. The benefit of being the baker? I get to taste everything. Now I'm adding my dough hook onto the stand mixer, and I'm going to turn it on and slowly incorporate around 8 cups of flour. This recipe calls for 8 cups, but I've never needed quite that much. I watch it mostly for consistency. Usually I end up adding about 7.5 cups to my dough. After approximately 10 minutes of mixing, this dough is ready. This time I added just slightly too much flour, and my dough is a little thicker than I wanted it to be, but this will still turn out to be a beautiful loaf of bread. I'm going to cover the dough and let it rest overnight. Usually you want it to proof for around 12 hours. Alright, it has been about 13 hours. It's 10:15 in the morning right now, As you can see, this having been left overnight has risen nicely. I'm going to divide this up into two and I'm going to put them into loaf pans. Now I'm going to grease this with some butter before putting the dough in there, and then it's going to rise again for a few more hours, and then I'll get to bake it and we'll have delicious homemade bread. Here you see what the dough should look like after 12 hours of fermentation. I always forget to soften butter in advance, so I rub a cold stick along all of the pans, and then I'll use a piece of paper towel to wipe it and smooth it out. Now I'm going to divide my dough into two portions. I simply roll it and tuck the ends in, kind of folding them in as I go to form a ball. Then I'm going to gently press it into my greased loaf pan. Alright, so the dough is in the bread pans. These are going to sit on my counter for the next few hours to rise again. We have a little bit of a busier afternoon, so I probably won't get to these until later in the afternoon. Hopefully they don't rise too much, but either way, the bread is going to be edible and it will be delicious. Alright, we just got home from running all our afternoon errands. It is about 4:45, so as you can see, the bread has risen a second time. Hopefully it hasn't overproofed, but regardless, this will still taste absolutely delicious. So it is ready to pop into the oven now, and we'll be able to eat it in about 40 minutes. After the oven has preheated to 375 degrees, I'm going to pop the loaves in and set a timer for 40 minutes. Immediately after pulling them out of the oven, I run a knife along the edge just to loosen up anything that might have stuck. Then I'm going to dump them out onto a wire rack to cool. You're supposed to wait a little bit to slice your bread, but who doesn't love a good hot slice of bread? Look at how squishy and perfect it is. Good. If this video encouraged you to try making homemade bread, please like and subscribe and leave me a comment.